Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be looking at a company that's got everybody talking. ARM Holdings,
Yes.
ticker symbol ARM.
Yeah, you sent over a whole bunch of stuff.
I did.
Reports, analyses, earnings, call snippets.
Yeah. And it's fascinating stuff.
It's a really interesting story. The question we're trying to answer for you today is ARM stock a hidden gem?
Or are there some cracks beneath the surface? I mean, that's the thing, right? ARM is everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at your phone, you look at your laptop, even probably your smart fridge is using ARM chip designs.
Pretty much.
But their stock performance has been kind of puzzling.
Yeah, it has been a little bit puzzling because they just had a fantastic quarter Q2 of fiscal year 2025.
Oh, wow.
They crushed their earnings, they beat all the expectations, and the stock dipped.
That's not how it usually works.
Not how it usually works when you beat earnings, so we got to break down what's going on here.
Yeah, so first things first, ARM designs the core tech,
Yes.
like the blueprints for tons of the world's electronics.
That's right.
But they don't actually make the chips themselves.
Yeah, they don't actually manufacture the chips, which is a really important point.
That is.
Their business model is licensing their intellectual property.
Okay.
So these chip designs to other companies who then build and sell the chips, so it's very scalable.
Okay.
But it also makes them very dependent on the overall health of the semiconductor market.
Right, and everybody's so hyped about AI right now,
Yes.
and it feels like ARM is in a really good spot to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Their chips are known for being very power efficient.
Right.
Which is absolutely crucial for AI applications, which require just tons of processing power. But this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Their Q2 performance was fueled, at least in part, by demand for iPhones,
Right.
which is one of their major customers. But there's some questions about whether their growth beyond AI is all that it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, I saw that in one of the analyst reports. They were talking about the Q3 revenue forecast.
It was a little softer than people were expecting, and I think that made some investors nervous.
Yeah, that's right. And to understand why, we have to understand the competitive landscape.
Okay.
So ARM's not the only player in town when it comes to chip architecture.
Right.
There are competitors like RISC-V that are starting to gain some traction, and that's what adds a layer of uncertainty to the whole picture.
Okay, so strong current performance, concerns about future growth.
Yeah.
I think now we have to talk about the elephant in the room, or maybe the kraken in the moat.
Yes.
This legal battle with Qualcomm.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Qualcomm used to be a major licensee of ARM's designs, but they canceled those licenses, and they're now claiming they can use ARM's tech without paying.
So is that like a tenant refusing to pay rent, but then also saying that they own the building?
Kind of, yeah. Very complicated legal situation.
Okay.
But the outcome could have a huge impact on ARM's revenue and their profitability.
Yeah. I mean, this lawsuit is like a dark cloud hanging over their stock.
It's no wonder that investors are saying, hey, we want more transparency from ARM management. The earnings call transcript was light on details, especially about their long-term strategy for dealing with all of this.
Yeah, and I think that lack of transparency is absolutely contributing to the stock's volatility.
Right, because investors don't like uncertainty.
No.
And right now, there's just a ton of it.
There is a lot of uncertainty right now.
Okay, so we got strong performance, but there were concerns about future growth competition and this legal battle. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
A real mixed bag. What do the experts say?
Yeah, what are the analysts saying?
Well, that's the interesting part. The analyst opinions are kind of all over the place.
Right.
Some of them are incredibly bullish, saying that ARM stock could go as high as $180 a share.
Wow. That's almost double their current price.
Yeah, they're pointing to ARM's potential in AI, the growth of the Internet of Things, and just the fact that their technology is everywhere.
But I'm guessing not everybody's that optimistic.
No, definitely not. There are plenty of voices out there that are more cautious.
Okay.
They're worried about the high valuation. A lot of that future growth is already baked into the current stock price.
Okay.
They're also concerned about ARM's dependence on a few key customers like NVIDIA.
Right. NVIDIA, they're another huge player in the chip world. And I remember reading that they use ARM designs in some of their most popular products.
Exactly. But that reliance on NVIDIA is a double-edged sword.
Okay.
On the one hand, it's a huge source of revenue for ARM, but on the other hand, it makes them vulnerable.
Right.
If NVIDIA's business were to take a hit, ARM would definitely feel it.
So it's like this tug of war.
Yeah.
You got the bullish analysts that are really excited about ARM's future, and then you've got the folks that are a little more cautious that are highlighting the risks.
Absolutely.
It sounds like we need to go a little deeper to figure out who's right.
Yeah, and one of the key concepts I think we need to understand here is Arm's economic moat.
Yeah.
It's their competitive advantage.
So what is that?
Think of it like the defenses around a castle.
Okay.
How protected are they from rivals? How strong are their walls?
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that. So Arm's economic moat, what is that?
So it's a really important concept to understand when you're analyzing a stock.
Uh-huh.
You want to see if a company has some kind of sustainable advantage
Right.
that's going to protect their profits in the long run.
Okay, so with Arm, what is their moat?
Yeah, so for Arm, one of their big moats is the fact that their technology is already embedded in literally billions of devices.
Uh-huh.
And that creates what we call high switching costs.
Switching costs, explain that like I'm 5 years old.
Okay, so imagine a company, let's say a smartphone manufacturer, wants to switch from using Arm's designs to a competitor.
Okay.
They would have to completely redesign their hardware, potentially causing all sorts of compatibility issues.
Right.
With the software and apps that people are using, it's a very risky and expensive proposition.
Okay, so once you're in with Arm, you're pretty much locked in.
Pretty much.
And that's their moat in action.
That's exactly right. But here's the thing, moats aren't static.
Okay.
They can be weakened or even breached over time.
Oh.
And that's what we're starting to see with Arm.
Okay, so what's chipping away at their defenses?
Well, for one thing, this Qualcomm lawsuit is a major threat.
Okay.
If Qualcomm wins and is able to use Arm's technology without paying those licensing fees, it sets a really dangerous precedent.
Yeah, it's like saying to all the other companies out there, hey, you can just come on in and take whatever you want.
Exactly.
And you don't even have to pay the toll.
That's right. It undermines their entire licensing model.
Right.
And potentially could open the floodgates for other companies to challenge Arm's intellectual property rights.
And we talked before about how the competition is heating up.
Yeah.
And we talked about RISC-V, this open source architecture.
RISC-V is a real contender. It's a completely open source architecture.
Okay.
Which means that companies can use it and modify it without paying any licensing fees at all.
And I imagine that that's pretty attractive.
Extremely attractive.
For manufacturers, especially the ones that are, really cost conscious.
Absolutely. So Arm is facing this pressure from two sides. This legal battle that could undermine their licensing model, and this growing competitor that's offering a free alternative.
It doesn't sound great for their moat.
It's definitely a concern. And then you've got the issue of their dependence on NVIDIA.
Right.
It's fantastic they've got such a huge customer,
Uh-huh.
but it does create a vulnerability.
So if NVIDIA has problems, then Arm is going down with them.
Not necessarily down, but they would definitely feel the impact.
Oh.
And what's even more concerning is that NVIDIA is investing more and more in developing their own chip designs.
Wait a minute. So NVIDIA is a major customer of Arm, but they might also become a competitor.
That's right.
That's like inviting a wolf to live in your hen house.
Yeah, it adds another layer of complexity and risk to Arm's future.
Legal challenges, a competitor, a customer that might become a rival. Arm's moat definitely sounds like it's got some problems.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say their moat is springing a few leaks.
And then we've got this whole cloud of uncertainty hanging over the whole thing.
Right.
Investors want Arm's management to be more transparent.
Yeah, transparency is absolutely crucial in a situation like this. Investors need to understand how Arm plans to address these challenges, defend their moat, and ensure long-term growth.
So far, we've seen a lot of potential, but also a lot of risk.
That's right.
So is there any way to cut through all of this noise and just figure out, is Arm stock a buy or a sell or a hold?
Well, that's a million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And there's no easy answer, unfortunately.
Okay.
But there are some key things I think investors should be paying attention to.
I'm all ears. What should we be watching for?
First and foremost, I would say any updates on the Qualcomm lawsuit?
If Arm wins that lawsuit, it removes a ton of uncertainty and it'll probably boost the stock.
So legal news is definitely something to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah. The next thing I would say is earnings reports.
Okay.
Investors are going to be scrutinizing Arm's revenue growth, especially in those key areas like AI and data centers, because strong performance there could signal that they're really capitalizing on these key trends.
So legal developments, earnings reports. What else?
I think the big wild card is management communication.
Okay.
If Arm starts to be more transparent about their strategy, how they plan to deal with all these challenges, it would really go a long way towards restoring investor confidence.
So we need to see that they're willing to open up and share more information.
Exactly.
It sounds like this whole thing is still very much a work in progress.
Yeah, Arm's a company with a lot of moving parts. And the situation is evolving rapidly. I think the key takeaway here is you need to stay informed.
Okay.
Do your research and constantly be evaluating the investment thesis.
As new information becomes available.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Strengths, weaknesses, the challenges that ARM faces. But before we go, I want to get your final thoughts. What's the one key insight that really stands out to you from this deep dive?
I think for me, it's the importance of understanding a company's economic moat. And how it can be impacted by all these external factors that are going on.
Right.
ARM has a strong moat.
Yeah.
But it's facing some serious challenges that could really weaken their defenses.
Right.
It's a good reminder, I think, that even the most dominant companies are not invincible. And investors need to be aware of these forces that can shift the balance of power.
Yeah. And it really reinforces the importance of doing this kind of deep analysis before you make any investment decision.
Absolutely.
It's not enough to just read the headlines or listen to the hype.
Nope.
You got to dig deeper. You got to understand what's really going on.
That's what we try to do here.
That's what we do here.
We want to help you navigate this really complex world of investing by giving you those insights you need to make informed decisions.
So where does all this leave us? We've gone through ARM's financials, their competition, this legal battle with Qualcomm, even their economic moat.
Yeah.
Which has seen better days.
It's a mixed bag, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, on one hand, you look at ARMS, they seem like this powerhouse. I mean, their designs are everywhere.
Yeah.
Demand is going up, especially with the AI boom.
Right.
But then you look a little closer and there are some cracks.
Yeah. And I think those cracks are what are making investors nervous.
Totally.
And that's why we're seeing the stock price where it is.
Right. Those cracks like the Qualcomm suit.
Yeah.
The rise of competitors like RISC-V. And even the fact that a big customer like NVIDIA could become a competitor.
Right. And then you factor in the valuation.
Right.
A lot of that future growth is already baked into the stock price.
Right.
So there's not a lot of room for error.
Not a lot of wiggle room.
No, any bad news, and the stock could really take a hit.
So for somebody listening to this who maybe has ARM on their watch list, what should they do, buy, sell, or just wait and see?
Well, you know, I can't give financial advice.
Of course.
But I can offer a few questions that might help make that decision a little easier.
All right, I like that. What are the questions?
So the first question is, do you believe in ARM's long-term vision? Do you think they can overcome these obstacles, stay ahead of the game, and remain a leader in the chip world?
Because if you're not confident that they can handle this competition, maybe ARM's not the right investment.
That's right. The second question I would ask is, are you comfortable with the level of risk?
Yeah, because we talked about the uncertainty with the Qualcomm lawsuit.
Yeah.
The pressure for other companies, their dependence on just a few customers.
And that could have a real impact on ARM's performance.
Right, and there's no guarantees in the stock market.
None at all.
I mean, you could buy ARM today and tomorrow some crazy news drops, and suddenly your portfolio's in the red.
Happens all the time. And so this leads to the third and probably the most important question.
Okay.
Do you trust ARM's management?
That's huge.
Do you think they have a clear plan for dealing with all of these challenges?
Right.
And are they communicating that plan to investors?
Because we talked about the lack of transparency.
Yeah.
Like, are they being upfront about the risks?
And that's a big red flag for a lot of investors.
It is. So if you don't understand ARM's strategy, their financials, their plan for all these challenges, then it might be best to hold off.
Yeah. Until you get a little more information.
Okay, so for those who are still on the fence, what should they be looking out for in the next few months?
Well, first of all, keep your eyes on that Qualcomm lawsuit.
Okay.
If ARM wins, that's huge.
Yeah.
And it could really send the stock flying.
Yeah.
But if Qualcomm wins well, that's going to have a big impact on ARM's future earnings.
So legal news is important.
Very important earnings reports are also going to be crucial. Investors are going to be really focused on their revenue growth, especially in those key areas like AI and data centers.
Okay, so legal wins, impressive earnings. What about transparency?
Keep an eye on anything they do for investor relations.
Oh.
Presentations, interviews, blog posts, anything where they give more detail about their strategy, their financials, and their plan for handling these challenges, that's a good sign.
So it's not just about the numbers, it's about the story they're telling.
Exactly. And if they can convince investors that they have a solid plan for the future, well, that could do wonders for their stock price.
It all comes down to trust.
Doesn't it?
ARM's got to earn back that trust.
They do.
By being more upfront.
More transparent.
Yeah.
Right.
And more proactive about these concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot about ARM today.
We have. They've got amazing potential.
They do?
But they're also facing some real headwinds.
Yeah. No sure bets in the tech world.
Or in the stock market.
Nope.
You need to do your research.
You do.
You need to really analyze things carefully.
Okay.
And don't forget a healthy dose of skepticism.
Absolutely. And that's what the deep dive is all about.
That's what we're here for.
We want to help you make sense of this wild world of investing.
Yes.
We're giving you the tools and the insights so you can make informed decisions.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive and you want more analysis like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel.
And hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future episodes.
We've got lots of great companies and industries to explore.
Oh, yeah.
And we want you to come along for the ride.
Until next time.
Happy investing.